Cold weather gardening can be tricky, especially when you have one of these Arctic blasts move in. But here's some things you can do to help with that. Number one is to make sure there's plenty of moisture in the soil. You know, when we have those freezes move in, it could be several days before our pipes thaw out enough so that we can water again. And cold weather dries out our soil. So we don't want our plants stressing any at all. We want to have plenty of moisture going into these freezing temperatures. Also, if the plants are not stressed and have plenty of moisture, they rebound a lot quicker after the freeze if there's any damage. And fertility, you want to make sure that your plants have all the nutrients they need way ahead of this cold weather coming in, so there's no deficiencies in the soils, so the plants are good and healthy and not stressed out. If you have something like a phosphorus deficiency, then it's going to show in these cold temperatures. Now, I wouldn't fertilize right before a cold spell's coming in. If I know I'm having some freezing temperatures come in, I'm going to hold off on the fertilizer till after that, because I don't want to spur any new growth on any of that tender growth that could be burnt back in those hard freezes. Number two is frost covers. Now, there's a lot of these out there on the market. Some of them are real thin, they're real inexpensive. I prefer, and I think it's best to get a thicker one, and I'll tell you the reasons why. Now, this right here is a 1.5 ounce, and that's the way they measure a lot of these frost covers, is by ounces. And this is one of the heavier duty ones. It holds the heat, protects that plant a lot better. But you know what, when we have those winter storms move in, most of the time there is wind with them as well. So it's hard to get these row covers to stay on the plants and the wind not blow them around. We like to use these sod staples, staple it in there, and that seems to help a lot with keeping the wind from blowing these off. With this heavier duty 1.5 ounce fabric, the staples hold better and they don't tear. So they stay in place and do their job when those freezing temperatures come in. So this garden right here, which I've got several different things planted in it, we completely covered it with the 1.5 frost cover before our last Arctic blast came in. We had one morning got down to 16 degrees. I think the next morning got down to 18, and the morning after that was 20. So we had 3 days of cold weather. We completely covered this area right here with the 1.5 fabric cover. And you know, I had zinnias that I lost that we knew we was going to lose the zinnias, but everything else fared really well. And what I found was very unusual was crops that don't tolerate a lot of cold weather, such as beets and radishes and English peas, made it in these extreme temperatures underneath that frost cover. Of course, we knew our carrots was going to do fine. Strawberries, you know, they did good, and they can be kind of touchy under 20 degrees. We covered them and they was fine. Even our kale that we had covered did great. Our broccoli, of course our collards, and our cauliflower. All that did pretty good, very little damage underneath the frost cover. Now, I had another small patch of beets planted that I did not cover. Also, I had a plot out here of daikon radishes as a cover crop that I did not cover. I got extensive damage on the ones I did not cover. Another strategy that commercial guys use a lot is icing over. And you do this by using overhead irrigation. Now, you can run overhead irrigation in these extreme temperatures because most of the time running water will not freeze up. So you continually get that water out there and get it on the plants. When that water hits that plant in these extreme temperatures, ice happens and those plants ice over. And ice is at 32 degrees, so it protects that plant from getting below 32 degrees. That ice kind of acts as an insulation there. Now, this is a strategy the commercial strawberry guys use a lot to protect their strawberry crops when they have those hard freezes come in. Now, you may say, why don't I do both? Why don't I use the row cover and ice over for a blanket of insulation there? The problem with that is all that weight of the ice on top of these row covers here is going to flatten down and squish and damage your plants. So I would not do that. I would either use the row cover system, or if I couldn't do that, that would be my preferred method. I would ice over with overhead irrigation. Now right here, I got a couple crops that I did not cover up. We got top chop collards here, and they got just a little bit of damage on there, but they're gonna rebound and do fine. I irrigated these things and they had plenty of moisture in the soil there, so we got minimal damage on these collards. Collards normally are very cold tolerant. The crop we got next to these is one that we're trialing out called Callards. It's a cross between kale and collards, and they got a good bit more damage than our collards did. Now they're going to come out, they're going to be fine, but we did sustain a lot more damage there. So my rule of thumb is if it gets below 20 degrees, I'm going to cover up pretty much everything I have, my onions, all my greens. If I have to leave something uncovered, it's going to be carrots and Brussels sprouts. Now if it gets below 26, I'm going to cover my strawberries and my cauliflower, my broccoli, my radishes and my beets, and I'm not going to worry a lot about my onions and my collards till it gets below 20 degrees. Now crops such as spinach, Swiss chard, and garlic is going to withstand a lot of cold weather. I wouldn't cover them up till I probably got below 15 degrees, and they could probably stand it below that, but that's kind of a threshold where I would cover them up at, just not get any burn on them. All right, so when you have those Arctic blasts come in, make sure you got plenty of moisture in your soil, your plants are not stressing. Make sure in advance that your plants have the nutrients they need there, but hold off on any nitrogen applications right before a hard freeze comes in. If you can, use a good quality frost cover. If you can't, use the ice over method, and that'll help you get minimal damage after those hard cold spells.